Bronson, what's your favorite clean juice smoothie?
Tell me what your favorite clean juice smoothie is. Right here, you gotta say it loud so they can hear you.
Hydrating.
The hydrating one.
Okay. What else?
And the wake up one.
The wake up one.
Ooh,
Those are very
good
good
choices.
Yeah.
And what else do you like to get from there? This is the Bronson. We'll call it the Bronson one. This is your special treat. What do you get every time you go?
You gotta say it louder so I can hear you.
Blueberries and acai bowls.
Frozen blueberries and acai bowls.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today, Bronson.
Be Organic listeners, what is going on? This is Landon. So good to be back with you guys. We are out here in LA filming our podcast live. Today we've got an incredibly special guest, someone who's been on the show before, a good friend of mine, a Clean Juice franchise owner, Clean Juice area developer, 5-time UFC champion, my man, TJ Dillashaw. TJ, thank you so much for being here, brother.
Of course, always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, dude. Appreciate it. So, man, we had you on the podcast, what was it, about 2.5 years ago or so? 2 years ago, something like that?
Yeah.
And you've had a lot going on in the last couple of years. You came back, you won an incredible fight with Sandhagen, and now you're training for another worldwide championship, which is going to be incredible. We're super stoked for that. So tell us a little bit about your life and just catch us up, man.
My life, man. I've just been an athlete since as long as I can remember. My dad got me involved in wrestling as a kid, which took me to college on a full ride scholarship. And I decided to drop out of grad school instead of becoming a physician's assistant and chase the dream of being a world champion in MMA, which had led me to a contract in the UFC. As you mentioned, won some world titles, been able to support my family, get involved in business and things that I enjoy outside of fighting, and Clean Juice has been one of those things, and why I have know you guys, and I'm part of the Clean Juice family. That's kind of like a little rundown of me and what I got going on. And you mentioned I have a fight coming up here in October 22nd in Abu Dhabi to reclaim my bantamweight title.
That's right. A belt you never lost, by the way.
Exactly.
Which is going to be awesome. We're going to talk about that. We're super stoked for that.
Yeah, you and Kat are both going, right?
100%.
Yeah,
absolutely. Our tickets are purchased, and we will be there. Cage side, right?
Oh, it's on camera. You got to go.
Yes, exactly.
It's a marital point of contention right now, not because I don't want to support you, but because Abu Dhabi is very, very far. But
Yeah.
if you can make it happen, we'll make it happen.
Cool.
We already have the tickets, so there we go. We don't even have to argue about it. But TJ, I wanted to ask you, because, dude, you've been doing this fight thing for a long time, right? Like, wrestling throughout college is not an easy feature. Like, I mean, you've been training and grinding so long, and you've had so many great fights, and you've had so much kind of tenure in the sport. Like, how do you stay so healthy? I mean, you look fantastic. Like, how do you stay so fit? Like, I know you're always up on the latest health trends. You've got so much cool stuff going on, but like, as you age in the sport, like, you've just taken such an incredible, position on kind of how you've, kind of evolved your training and everything. So just like fill us in on what you're doing to stay in such great shape.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely something that I pay a lot of attention to now. I think you said a perfect aging in this sport. Because when I was in college and wrestling, I did not know what I was doing. Right, I was acting like a college kid.
Yep.
I was cutting weight the wrong ways. I was, not living. I was living off of White Castle burgers you buy at the grocery store and cook in your microwave. Yep. Right, like the frozen pizzas and burritos, and just working my butt off to make the weight, and then not having the great diet. But I was able to get away with it. When you're 18 to 22 years old, it's like you can do that stuff and get away with it. How I treat myself now, if I'd done it back then, I would have been a lot better of an athlete. I would have been able to compete at a higher level, be more cognitive, and just I'm glad I didn't succeed back then, because that wouldn't have got me into the fighting now. But the way that I've aged into the sport has been really big for my longevity of life, not just the sport. Why I can be in the UFC for 12 years and still be at the top and fighting for that belt has been everything with recovery to diet, nutrition, always on the cutting edge. And I've met some great coaches that have pointed me in the right directions. I went to school for clinical exercise science. I was going to be a physician's assistant, and within that you learn a lot about the body and your macronutrients and all that kind of stuff. And started taking it really serious once I started getting paid to be an athlete. Moved to Sacramento, learned, eating organic, and most of my supplementation was just through my food. Moved around the world and met Sam Calavita down here in Southern California and just took it to a whole new next level to where I'm doing everything from the right kind of amino acids and mineral deficiencies that I have in my body, which are different from your guys's. And the way that I know that is that I do a hair analysis. I'd say every 6 months I do a hair analysis and see what's going on with my body, to where I take the hair off the back of my head, closest to your brainstem. They send it to a lab, they burn it, and it'll tell them, what minerals I have too much of, what minerals I'm lacking, what toxins are on my body. When I first met Sam, I had very heavy arsenic levels in my body, which most wrestlers that he's tested have that, and we kind of have this theory that it comes from the mats. But things like that, I've been able to switch my diet. Why I got into masticating juicing was because of the heavy metals that were in my body, and it was the safest and easiest way for me to push those metals out was do masticating juicing and juicing cilantro and things like that, as well as the supplementation of certain things that I'm missing. So kind of hitting on everything. I think the biggest thing that I've been able to do for longevity is sitting in a hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah.
I tried it, and it's got to be a hard chamber it's got to be able to take you to a depth of a certain PSI, depending on what issue you have going on. But for the longevity aspect of it, I at least want to be like 7 to 10. I like to go to 12. So we got to be in like a hard chamber. And that has done wonders for me within my athletic performance, as well as just my overall well-being, alkalining my body, fixing my hormones, getting rid of psoriasis, lots of things like that.
Yeah.
As well as, the many trips I've made to Panama and Colombia for stem cells too.
Yeah. Super
trying to live forever.
When you do those hair tests, do they come back different every 6 months? Like they change pretty significantly?
They definitely change, right? Sometimes you have some long-lasting problems that take a long time to change. There's things that change automatically with maybe the way you're living or the stress levels. Something that I noticed that I fixed but took over time was my adrenal glands. So I had a big time adrenal fatigue, almost adrenal failure, which, when you're on the verge of that, you're never going to get it back.
Yeah.
You have that.
Well, that makes sense with what you do because that's your stress gland. So it's like when you're in this, you fight for a living. So it's like that's always activated. So that's probably definitely something that you personally have to keep activated correctly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was just a caffeine junkie.
Yep.
Right? Because I live on these highs all the time where I got to go and train 3 times a day. And you're talking about the stress of competing. That's huge. And then just me getting the energy to want to train multiple times a day. I was, slamming 5-hour energies or whatever it may be to get my energy up to go to the gym. And that definitely wasn't helping my adrenal glands whatsoever. So that was something that took over time, but I was actually able to completely reverse it. I got phospholipid creams to help with that, adrenal complexes I take, sitting in the chamber, and something that I've learned a lot with this new coach is actually taking rest days. When I was younger and so active, when I first got into the UFC, I maybe would take a day off, and I felt guilty for doing it. Until I really had a coach sit me down and be like, look, you're actually going to be a better athlete if I can get you to take 2 days off a week. Not like consecutive days. Now that I get older, sometimes I do need those consecutive days, but usually for me, it's like Wednesdays and Sundays, kind of goes like peaks and valleys of breaking my body down and then letting it recover before I do it all over again.
Yeah. Recovery is so important. So important.
Really is. Yeah. And I always thought, work harder than the guy next to you and you're going to be more successful, right? And for the most part, that is true. But when you're pushing yourself to the extreme, it actually hinders your overall performance. And that goes with anything, not just sports.
Absolutely.
Well, and it's not just the physical work, right? I mean, like you put in obviously the physical work, like you're training, jiu-jitsu and boxing and MMA rounds and doing all this weightlifting, et cetera. But it's also work like learning about recovery, right? Learning about your body, learning about how to, best kind of take on the physical part of it. That's also work, right? So it's like, you're absolutely right. Like, of course, like, this is a game where like, the younger guys come up, and you gotta stay relevant with them, of course. But I think actually, as you get older, you get smarter or you learn more, right? And so I think that's a huge reason as to why you've had so much success so long in the UFC. Not many guys, very few guys, have been in the UFC for 12 years. It's an incredible feature, and I think it's because you're so in tune with that recovery part. So I'd argue that, yeah, maybe you're not physically working as much as you were when you were younger, but you're always working on something to benefit your career, which I think is super admirable.
I'm more to the point of smarter, not harder.
Yeah,
right. When I was
exactly.
young and just dumb, I could just go.
You can get away with it, right?
Yeah.
And now, when you get older, like, man, if I have like a tough jiu-jitsu practice, like I'm sore for 3 days.
Yeah, your back's gonna hurt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And the young
exactly.
guys are like, dude, I was there 3 times since you've been there. I'm like, bro, I'm twice your age.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
So,
But then you always gotta I like to point out, like when I do see, like we're talking about jiu-jitsu, I go into the gym. I love seeing these older gentlemen doing jiu-jitsu until they're like in their 70s.
Totally.
And you know that exhaustion they're putting in there is actually making them last a lot longer.
Oh, yeah.
And my grandfather's a great point. He got into golfing and staying active in golfing for so long. He's 92 years old now. But as soon as he started being so sedentary and sitting on the couch, you can see his health decline very fast, right?
Yep.
And I think it was everything. If you can stay active and get something that pushes you to do something in everyday life, you're going to stay a lot younger.
Yeah, you need a purpose.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you talked about the hyperbaric chamber, which for those people that might not know, it's basically pumping your body full of oxygen in a pressurized chamber, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then I know when we got here today, you had a sauna being built in your backyard.
Yep.
So, and we've talked about that before. I know you had an infrared sauna, but you just switched to more of a dry sauna. And you told me that was for it so it can get hotter. Maybe explain a little bit about like those heat shock proteins and then the heat and cool bath, because I think that's something really awesome that you do that a lot of us could do as well.
Absolutely. And everyone's learning this, Joe Rogan's been a great guy to kind of point you in certain directions, but also my coach. So I had an infrared sauna, and you only get it to 140 degrees. Sometimes I can cover up the thermometer and get it to go a little bit hotter. To really start increasing those heat shock proteins, I want to get above 180 degrees, which is hard to sit in for that long, but you're getting your body to create those proteins. You're boosting your growth hormone by doing it. And if you can get into some sort of cold plunge afterwards and do the back and forth, it has shown great for cardiovascular health, right? So that's been something I've gotten into recently that I think is going to push me to a new level, which I'm excited to see. I just put one in here next to my pool, so in the next couple of days it should be working, and I'll get to see the difference because I'm so in tune with my body when I go day in and day out of practice. If there's a most minute change, I'm going to be able to see it. So I'm excited to see, maybe it's with my sleep or my recovery or whatever it may be. It's going to be fun to see.
That's awesome. And then we had talked a while ago about red light. Are you still doing red light therapy?
I do a lot of red light. I have a Juve light in my garage that I stand in front of, or a training lab at our gym has a recovery center. That's where I sit at hyperbaric chambers at as well. They have a light bed. It's called Light Stim. And it shoots anywhere from the 880 to 660 nanometer wavelengths. And every light wavelength is for different tissues. And, the stronger the wavelength, the deeper it goes for muscle and bone and things like that. For like the beauty and wrinkles, it's more surface area. So I definitely do a lot of red light therapy as well, too.
Awesome. Anything else you're keeping from me?
Man, yeah,
secrets.
now that I start thinking about it, right? So, it's hyperbaric chambers, it's a sauna, it's the red light. You guys obviously know the diet and nutrition. That's your guys' life, right? And I think that's actually the most important.
Oh, absolutely.
Out of anything I've changed, right? I've done all these things. The thing I noticed the most, because I go in and out of camp, right? Even though I'm out of camp, I'll still go sit in the hyperbaric chamber just from overall well-being. Maybe I got an injury, right? I blew my knee out my last fight. I wasn't eating as healthy, and I was laid up, and I can instantly feel the difference in my energy levels. And I said earlier, like my cognitive thinking, like when I'm in that perfect peak shape, the thing I notice the most, not just the way I look, but how I think and how clear-minded I am and how quick I'm able to fix problems and not get so frazzled with things to where when I don't have a great diet, I'm not sleeping well, and I feel like real cloudy, So I really believe that the diet is the most important thing for me, and hence why I've gotten so knees deep into being involved with Clean Juice and my meal prep and my supplementation.
Well, I think that's something I respect a lot about you, just knowing you. It's like you're this, top 0.001% of athletes that's doing it professionally and really successful, but you're a really great dad. You're really involved with your family. You have multiple businesses that you're not just, a bypasser in, but you're actively involved in, and the names and the business opportunities and all these things going on. And on top of it, you're taking care of yourself. So I think for me, that's more of a testament to you than anything, is like you have all these areas in your life that you're optimizing, that you're acting at the top of them, which is really, really cool.
Appreciate that.
So I'd love to hear about your diet. Like, what's a daily diet for TJ?
Yeah. Since meeting my coach, so when I first got into the UFC, and even when I became champion the first time back in 2014, I was eating whatever I wanted. I used to make fun of some of my teammates. They were actually older too. That would be gluten-free. Like before gluten-free was like a thing, like I'd make fun of him, be like, he'd order something gluten-free, like, hey, bring me his gluten. I'll eat all his gluten too. It doesn't matter. I'll eat pizza. It was just the same mindset as like, I'll just work harder than you. And I was world champion, right? And that was just a testament of me being, real mean and competitive and wanting to be in the gym and getting better. But then once I've met this coach down here in Southern California, Sam Calavita, and really showed the gains that I could get, and me being an older athlete, from me switching up my diet, I stick away from grains completely.
Do you do rice or nothing?
Rice will be the one thing that I'll eat every now and then when I need to spike my insulin levels. Like, I'm professional athletes working hard, so sometimes I need those simple carbs. I won't eat rice all the time because it is a food that has arsenic in it.
Well, you've told me before that when you do eat rice, like that's one thing that you are super like, it's got to be clean rice, it's got to be organic because of the arsenic issues.
Exactly. Yeah. It feels great when you eat it too because it gives you a great sugar rush, right? But yeah, I don't eat grains. I definitely don't eat any kind of complex sugars, so no like man-made sugars. Only sugars I get from my fruit and vegetables. I guess like you'd say I'm paleo. Like I go like sometimes I'll do intermittent keto when I get closer to a fight because I want to turn myself into like a glycogen battery, right? So when I get closer to weigh-ins, I will go keto. And then after I weigh in, I'll ingest like it's a special little shake that we drink after our weigh-ins. It's got like potato flakes in it and good sugars and kombuchas that. Because when I weigh in at 135 pounds, I am depleted. And then within an hour, it's just like my body just swells up from all the glycogen I'm putting back in it. So the next day, I'm just charged and ready to go. But a lot of guys make the mistake of putting those complex carbs back into their body of the old days of go eat some spaghetti or fettuccine. And that carbs you need for long-lasting energy is just... It's false, right? So
and they're slow and sluggish and exhausted. Yeah,
absolutely. Yep. And we've done some. We've actually done. We trained an athlete in the garage. Sam Calavita did, and put him on a great diet all the way up to his fight. He weighed in, and then he just decided to mow down on pasta, and just felt so lethargic, especially when you're running that clean.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So a daily basis, I'd be saying like paleo, no grains, no sugars. If I got to eat some sort of tortilla, so I'll do like the cassava flour tortillas. I like siete. It's not organic, but it's a very good product as well.
It's pretty clean. It's like 3 ingredients or something.
Exactly. Yeah. High protein, high fat diet. Really high protein, good fats. Tons of avocado. Every time I show up to the clean juice, they know they're making me an intense one. They're adding chia seeds to it for the omegas and the maca. So as soon as I walk in the door, they're already blending up a 24-ounce intense one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's funny. This is like a total sidebar, but I was reading this interview about Miles Teller, who played like the lead in the new Top Gun movie. What was his name?
Maverick.
Like Matt. Was he Maverick or he was Goose or something?
Goose was his dad, and he was Rooster.
Okay.
Yeah. Such a good movie.
But anyway, he
I
was talking about that like famous scene now where he's like shirtless on the beach and he's like going like this and he looks amazing. And he was doing the same thing. He like was diet like for months and he was just starving himself. And he said that morning he woke up and they just chugged Pepsi. Like that's all their drink is Pepsi to give him that kind of like puffed up look.
Like
so
a
he's
bodybuilder.
Like, exactly. Yeah. So he was like literally like he looked like he was in this prime shape of his life, but he was really like basically deprived and then like puffed up on Pepsi and soda. So that is something that like puffing up from the sugar. Yeah.
Yeah. Bodybuilders do it to the fullest. And that's kind of like, I've doing it clean and healthy and have them fuel for the next day. But they kind of do that. They cut out all the sugars, and then like an hour before they go into their competition, they pound a bunch of sugar because then it just rushes back to their muscles, you know. And, but then they can only flex for like 15 seconds, right?
Right.
I got to do a 25-minute fight, so
Exactly.
I got to do
It's
it the right
different for an
way.
athlete.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you are 5 weeks out from another world title, fighting for the UFC bantamweight 135-pound championship, and you're taking on Aljamain Sterling. It's going to be a heck of a fight. We're so excited for it. But you mentioned this earlier. It's in Abu Dhabi, right? And so, you know, obviously we're sitting here in LA, and you know, that's a what? From here, it's a 13, 14, 15-hour flight or so?
About 16 hours
Right?
from
So
here, yeah.
literally, basically on the other side of the world.
It is, yeah.
How does that factor into your training? And because I've traveled internationally a ton, and I know for the first week I'm just wrecked from the jet lag. Right?
Yep.
Jet lag is a real thing. So you've got that whole added complexity to think about. How are you going to approach that with this fight, and what are some of the things that you're going to do to kind of counteract that?
That's a great question. So wherever I fight, I try to train around the time that I'm going to compete at. Like for instance, for New York, you know, like I always know that it's going to be, which is nice because when we're West Coast time, it's actually easier, right? But I fight like midnight, 1 o'clock there, 3 hours earlier here, which makes it pretty easy for me to train for that. I'm usually a night owl anyways because I train late. But Abu Dhabi is a whole nother story. It's 11 hours. It's completely on the other side of the world, right? So it's 11-hour difference. So it's virtually impossible for me to be able to get on the same sleep cycle. I mean, I'd have to be non-existent to the rest of the world here, right? Like I have a 4-year-old son I got to hang out with. I can't be on Abu Dhabi time. So I'm actually going to fly out 2 weeks before the fight. And I know that first week's going to be rough, right? Usually we fly out 5 days before the fight. That's when the UFC flies us there. It gets us there, gets us like all the media we got to do and gets all that out of the way. But I'm going to take it under myself and fly out even 2 weeks, so about 14 days, expecting that first week to try to get on normal sleeping. Because when they used to fight in Abu Dhabi, they would fight U.S. time, right? But now that the world's back open, since COVID's not, it doesn't exist anymore, right? That they're going to be on Abu Dhabi time because it's going to be a live event. It's going to be in a big old stadium. So I'm probably going to fight midnight in Abu Dhabi, which is going to be like 1 PM here. Right. So I need to get out there and get the sleep cycle down.
Yeah.
So are your like kind of bigger, kind of heavier, more MMA training rounds, are you trying to do them like noon, 1 o'clock-ish?
Roughly,
for
yeah.
that kind of reason?
Exactly. Yeah. So I just got in hit and mitts with Dwayne from 1 to 2:30, you know, because I'm thinking that's when roughly we're going to be fighting around there. So I want my body to be ready to go then. But it's still hard because I'm not waking up and sleeping at the right times. Right. So it's going to be still different. And that's why I need to go out there early.
And you also have this whole added complexity around weight cutting, right? You got to, you know, I mean, you look pretty good right now. You look pretty lean. We were talking about it, but like you're not 135 pounds right now.
Oh, no way.
So, and, you know, I just know from traveling to Asia so many times that like you puff up from
You
flying.
retain water.
Yeah, you retain water. So, you know, you've got that whole issue to think about. Are you still going to be doing things like sauna and some of the things you've already mentioned to kind of combat that?
Yeah, so flying definitely makes you retain water.
Yeah.
Right, and so you got to kind of plan on that. A lot of times we fly out 5 days before the fight, and I'm already water loading. So, for instance, right now, this morning I woke up 153 pounds, which is pretty light for me. I usually walk around in the 60s. And the night I fight, so I would say I weigh in Friday, usually around 10 o'clock. By 10 o'clock at night on Saturday, I usually weigh 152, 153 pounds when I fight.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm only on weight for like an hour.
That is absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Like really.
It's come down to like a crazy science. And I've been doing it, unfortunately, I've been doing it way too long as a kid. Not to the extreme I'm doing it now, but I've started cutting weight when I was 8 years old. You know, I told everyone that's why.
Wake up at Friday morning?
Friday morning, I'll probably wake up 5 to 6 pounds over.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what I'll do is I'll give you the week. So 7 days before the fight, I will roughly be about 150 pounds. And then I do a thing called water loading. And this has all been new. I never used to do this. Even when I was champ, not until I met Sam Calavita, I always cut weight the wrong way. I did the bathtub stuff. I would stop drinking water. I'd stop eating as much. But the way we do it with Sam Calavita, I'm eating like the same amount of calories that I'm eating now, but I'm tricking my body. So when I'm 7 days out, on that day, I'm drinking about 2 to 2.25 gallons of water on that day. So it's hard to put that much water down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm peeing constantly. If I work out, I'm sweating like crazy because my body's like, you're overhydrated, get rid of it, right? The mistake people make is they drink like distilled water or even just regular water. You're going to push all the minerals out of your body. So I have to drink electrolyte water because I'm going to be pushing all these minerals out. And then when I'm 6 days out, I'll drink, we'll say 1 3/4 gallons. 5 days out, I'll drink 1.5 gallons. 4 days out, I'll drink 1 gallon. I mean, those numbers will change depending on my weight. And then say I'm like 3 days out, it's 3/4 gallon to where my body still thinks it's hyperhydrated. And then the day of weigh-ins in that morning, I'm not going to drink any water. And my body still thinks like, get rid of fluids.
Right.
And so I'll wake up, 5 to 7 pounds over on Friday morning, and I'll go in the sauna. I'll start breaking a sweat. I cover my body in coconut oil, so it kind of clogs my pores. I'll put on plastics, and then I just go and walk on the treadmill. Just nice, decent pace. I'll walk on the treadmill, probably about 40 minutes. I'll play catch with Juan, like just so I keep my mind active because I'm depleted right now.
Yeah.
And I'll lose 7 pounds in about 40 minutes.
Wow.
Jeez.
Just all water weight.
That's
so
awesome.
I show up 150, usually roughly when I'm fighting 5 days before, like 7 days before, but 150. That's all. I'm only losing water from there on out. I'm not losing any kind of body mass, no muscle, no fat. So when I'm 150 pounds to 152 pounds, I know that I've made weight.
Right.
I just got to now push all the water out of my body. And then I weigh in, and then an hour to 2 hours later, I'm back to like close to 150 pounds.
Wow. So you're right there right now if you're 153. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a little bit lighter than I'd like to be, but I've been so active just training hard that I've just naturally walked myself down to this spot. So. Which is good. As long as I can keep the strength, it shouldn't be a problem.
What's the furthest flight or fight that you've done before this one? Like time difference, I guess.
Brazil. I think when I fought in Sao Paulo, Brazil was the biggest. Most of my fights have been domestic. I fought in Canada. I fought in Brazil. I've cornered a teammate in Australia, but yeah, I've never had to actually compete that far away. So this will be I'm actually kind of excited about it though too.
The challenge.
Yeah, the challenge. I just know that I'm gonna do better than my opponent at it. Like I'm gonna take every step there is. I'm gonna like. I mean, there's a very slim amount of people that are gonna do everything that I'm doing, from the way I eat. We've been talking about the recovery I'm doing, the way I'm training, the way I'm planning out my workouts, the film I'm watching. I just don't leave any stone unturned. And I know if we have another element added to making this fight harder, it's going to do nothing but benefit me. So.
I had that question come up while we were sitting here. Like, do you think other athletes, and I guess in particular UFC fighters, are doing all the things you're doing, or do you think that they're not?
Not to the fullest.
Yeah.
There's definitely like fads and people talk about it like, oh, I should try doing that. Right. But I don't think there's very many people that work with a guy like Sam Calavita that has turned me on to so many health benefits and becoming the best athlete possible. As well as it's a full-time, like
for sure.
Even just my supplement regimen, like I would pay someone to line out my supplements because I do, morning, afternoon, evening, different supplements I take, and I take different supplements before I work out. Like I would seriously like pay someone to like line those up for me and put them in my hand so I could just take them,
Yeah.
I know Rampage Jackson worked with Sam Calavita, and he actually had to pay someone to do that for him because he just knew like, I'm not going to do that. It's like a full-time job. Like the nutritional yeast I'm drinking in the morning for all the vitamin B's and help me absorbing my vitamins, the psyllium husk I drink to help with my digestion and being like a prebiotic, the probiotics I'm taking, the amino acids, the vitamin C's, the adrenal complexes stuff, the glutathione creams I'm putting on. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, just naming it off right now, it's a lot of stuff,
How much does that go down when you aren't training for a fight?
I definitely give my body a break. I mean, even now, like I try to take weekends off because your body will get used to just taking the same stuff.
Yeah, you almost have to supplement like cycle. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, same thing like if you're someone that takes melatonin, like you shouldn't take it every night because your body's eventually going to get used to taking it and it'll stop producing it.
Exactly.
Same kind of thing with your supplements. You kind of want to keep your body guessing all the time. So a lot of times I'll take the weekends off. And then when I get out of fight camp, I try to stick to a clean diet, especially as I've gotten older, because that shit, you pay for it, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
I used to be able to like eat whatever and be fine and not like put on that much weight, but now it's like, I feel it, you know? So I try to stick to, I'll give myself a week, you know,
Yeah.
of like acting like a fool, and then my face blows up and I look myself in the mirror, it's like, all right, back to eating somewhat clean, not too as strict as I am now, but yeah, pretty good. I mean, even if I go out and eat with Nathan, I'll probably pick apart some sort of meal and not get something in it, you know? I'm like that guy that sits at a restaurant, it's like real nitpicky about what you're bringing him, you know? It's kind of annoying, but you know, it's my life.
Yeah.
Well, you're a professional athlete. So
Yeah.
it comes with the territory. It's funny. I remember going out to dinner with you. It was like January and we were talking or whatever. And you're like, yeah, man, like, you know, I'm feeling kind of bad because I ate like pretty crappy on Thanksgiving. I'm like, dude, that was like 8 weeks ago. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure you're good by now. You're like, I don't know, man. I just ate like really bad. And, you know, now I'm like really trying to, I'm like, dude, like I've eaten bad so many times since Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But you're like, I eat bad during the Thanksgiving season, which is October, November, December.
Heck yeah. Unfortunately, I'm a little OCD as well too, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I feel like if you're going to be the best in the world at something, you have to be obsessed.
Yep.
Like, it needs to like rule your life to an extent, right? I do a good job of separating it and thinking about family and my other jobs, what kind of my other businesses I'm involved in, they distract me in a good way. But even now that I'm 5 weeks out, like people that I have businesses with notice that like, don't call me.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll put my phone on airplane mode. You ain't gonna, you know, you're not gonna wake me up in the morning. Like I'm gonna be on my sleep cycle. I'm, you know, so you got to be obsessed. You got to be. It's got to. I mean, if you're gonna be the best in the world of something, it's got to be your every thought.
You have to put you first.
And
right?
I think you
have
probably you get used to feeling so good.
Yeah.
It's like you probably feel so good all the time, and then it's like you have a week off, and you're like, I feel like this sucks, you know. So it's like you want to get back to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's hard when you're at your peak, and then all of a sudden you're not, and just when it affects every area of your life, it's just important to take care of it.
I think it's a very good point. I think the hardest thing for me is knowing what my peak is.
Yeah.
Because then when I'm not on it, I feel like a dick.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, God, man, I'm messing my life up. I got to be on a better diet. I should go for a run. Like all this stuff. Like I used to look like that. You know, like I need to get back to that.
For sure.
That it's a tough one. It's a tough pill to swallow, but you also got to be human too, right? Because if you stick on that all the time, you're going to break down. Your body's never going to be able to take it.
Well, yeah, and I think it's almost like supplement cycling. I say sometimes too, like diet cycle. Like sometimes it's almost to make sure, just because we're always going to be introduced to bad chemicals, just like even if it's in the air we're breathing, you know what I'm saying? So like making sure that your body stays introduced to those is important. Like even people that are totally gluten-free, outside of people that are like celiac, I'm always like, just make sure every once in a while you're having a slice of pizza or something, just so your body remembers that, you know, just because it's good to like keep it adjusted to that in some way.
I like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I treat a lot of my other training and my supplementation like that, so why not my diet too?
Yeah.
Makes me feel better now.
Yeah. 80-20.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for what you've got going on. Obviously, you know, biggest fight of your life in the next 5 weeks, and the card is incredible. Like on any other card, like you guys would be an incredible main event, right? But I mean, we've got just such a stacked card with Islam and Oliveira and Suga, Sean, and Petroyan. I mean, dude, some really good fights on that card. It's going to be if anybody watches UFC, they're watching that card, and I'm super stoked for you. I mean, because I think you match up really, really well with Aljamain. I think it's going to be a great fight. So.
Absolutely. It's me and my coach watch a lot of tape. Dwayne Ludwig, he's actually in town. He flies out every week. He flies in every Thursday and then leaves on Saturday for my fight camp. You know, in last fight camp, I flew to Colorado, so he's got his guest bedroom here that he says he's going to start Airbnb when he's not here because it's his place, right? Like
that's awesome.
We watch a lot of tape, and I match up very well with this guy. You know, we always make jokes. We say, "How is this guy even the champion?" Right now? You know what I mean? It's like, so it's going to be a great night. You got to obviously take him serious. He's got some great weapons. He's a great athlete. But I just think I'm too well rounded, and where I'm really good at is that I can take advantage of him, you know?
Yep.
So it's going to be a great night for me, and it's going to be nice to be back on top and have that new funky looking belt. I like the old belts. I'm just the classic guy. I like the old classic UFC
dude, you
belts.
got 5 of the old ones. You know what I mean? You got to get one of the new ones.
Yeah, I got it. I gotta have a new one before I walk off the sport, right? But the new ones look like they're toys. Look, I can go buy that at Toys R Us or something.
Yeah.
If Toys R Us even exists anymore.
Yeah, right. They're making a comeback.
Are they?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. I'll have to take Bronson to a Toys R Us. I used to love Toys R Us as a kid.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
What's your prediction, Landon? TJ and what's it called when they choose or when they knock it out?
Oh, is it?
Oh, like a decision?
Decision or a knockout.
I think Aljamain's getting knocked out.
Really?
Yeah.
What round?
I think it's going to be round 2 or 3.
Ooh,
Yeah.
all right.
That's my prediction.
All right, so I'll see you front row.
100%.
Like he called it right here.
Yeah, I'm going to be right there. And so is she.
That's right. You're going to be there too.
Awesome,
Nice.
man. Well, dude, it's been so good having you back on the podcast. You know, obviously, you know, we can't talk about everything that you're doing because you don't want to give away any trade secrets, but you've just, what I love about you, TJ, is that like you take it so seriously and you're such a student of what you do and you're always learning and working, right? Whether that's physical work or just working on yourself or working on your businesses. I just love having you as a friend and a partner, man. I appreciate you and can't wait to be there in 5 weeks supporting you live.
I appreciate it so much, and I appreciate you guys bringing me onto the Clean Juice family. You know, it's been, especially during a time in my life that was kind of rough. You know, I was like down in the dumps, and it was kind of like a perfect segue for me. You know, that kind of kept me on track and kept me focused. And meeting Nathan Ring and having him part of the team down here in Southern California with the area development and just you know, doing all this a month before COVID, right?
Yeah,
and then
I know, right?
making it through that. It's just been, I'd say that my mental strength has been very tested since 2019, right?
Yeah.
From everything that I've gone through with suspension in the sport to business to COVID and just it just being like the perfect storm and me still pushing through, me going to be on top with the belt here soon. Us pushing through with Clean Juice and going to be taking over Southern California here soon. It's just a testament to me just being mentally strong, and you're never going to break me.
Absolutely.
You know, like nothing's going to break me no
good.
matter what.
Yep.
And I'll always find a way to work my way out of it.
I love it. Well, the more stuff you go through, it just makes it that much better of a story.
Yeah,
right?
heck yeah.
So, and you guys are opening stores out here, and it's just incredible to see. It really is. Because, I mean, man, if we were having this conversation in the middle of 2020, opening retail stores in California wasn't happening, right? And you guys are doing it. So
Might just get in a fist fight if we're going to be talking about that. Going back to 2020,
Yeah,
me and Ring were happy, but you know, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Well, TJ, thank you so much, man. We're so blessed to have you on the podcast. We appreciate you. And
Thanks for taking the time during training too.
Absolutely.
I know
No
you have so
doubt.
much going on, so we're appreciative.
I mean, you guys traveled to me. It makes it awesome. You get to be in sunny LA, and I'm glad you guys are down here.
Awesome.
Thank you, brother.
Of course.